There are some of us who feel as even though we finally learned our lessons through the difficult seasons that we've been through, we're not getting a chance to apply what we've learned. It's as if life is still punishing us and we're asking the question, what is the point of learning what I've learned and going through what I've gone through if I will not have another opportunity to make something of myself and my life? Just give me another chance, God. I was wrong. I was entitled. I was delusional. I was arrogant. I was naive. Just give me one more chance and I will make this right. Some of us have been praying this for years and nothing seems to be happening. Well, there are two things that I can offer you if you feel like this describes where you are at the moment. A lot of us live or are living with regrets because of the things we did and the moves we made that didn't pan out exactly as we expected or were hoping. And the older we grow, the more the regret seems to fester and deepen, especially because things haven't worked out the way we thought they would. We made a particular move. We realize now that we shouldn't have made it, and we spend our days kicking ourselves, telling ourselves that if only we could go back, we would never have made that move. Or if only I had another chance to go back. But you see, you are underestimating and you are undervaluing the entire point of the whole experience. The entire point of the whole experience was so that you could be renewed through the transformation of your mind. And we know now that you have been renewed and transformed already. How do we know that? Because you have now admitted to yourself that you now know things that if you had known before would most likely have caused you to rethink your decision. You are now saying that now that I am here and I have seen what I have seen and learned what I have learned, if I had the power to go back or if I had the opportunity to do this all over again, I might not have made this move or I would have done so significantly differently. And I put it to you that that mindset which you now have, this mindset which you now have is not only the entire point of why you went through what you've gone through, but that this mindset is priceless. You cannot buy it with gold, with all the gold in the world or all the money in the world. In Ajawa, where I come from, which is in the Ogbomoso area, the western area of Oyo State in Nigeria, we say that Iya ninko malai igboran koto dologbon. It is suffering and painful experiences that teach a disobedient child obedience. That's why King Solomon says that foolishness is bound in the heart of youth and that the rod of correction will drive it away. So all young people are foolish and the burden falls on us to outgrow our foolishness. And it is pain that is the most effective tool of curing us of that foolishness. So the people of Ajawa say, it is pain that teaches obedience because you cannot learn obedience in comfort. You cannot learn by observing others. You cannot learn by reading stories of others. You could read 1 billion stories in 1 million books and you think you have learned, but you would never truly learn until you go through some things firsthand. And I say all of this again so that you do not regret the decisions you made. Even if you call them mistakes, I assure you they were necessary mistakes as long as certain things occurred. Yes, there are some things that some of us do and we're now living with the consequences, rightfully so. You knew not to do that. But in most cases, when you made decisions to better yourselves and things haven't worked out, don't regret that decision as long as certain things have occurred or are occurring. Number one, the first question is this. Have you gained or did you gain anything from the experience? This experience that you are now calling a mistake, did you gain or have you gained anything from it? Let me use myself as an example. Coming to America revealed the true colors of the enemies who were pretending to be friends who were in my life. If that is even the only gain that I got by making this move to America, it would have been more than worth it. I'm telling you the same. If finding those people out is the only gain I got, it is more than worth it because these were people with whom I was naked, figuratively speaking. These were people with whom I shared my deepest secrets and my most vulnerable thoughts. And I didn't know that they were not on my side. And in fact, that some of them were secretly working against me. It is best said the way we say it in Ajawa. Remember again, that's where I'm from in Nigeria, Ajawa. And Washeni Bani Daru. those who go behind to cause you harm and yet are the first ones to show up to commiserate and sympathize with you. And I would never have known this about these people but for moving to America. It took coming to America and being transformed by the things that I have learned for me to actually see them for who they are. Because it's not as if they suddenly changed when I got to America. It was that I didn't have the necessary experience and the framework and the wisdom and the perspective and lens that allowed me to interpret their behaviors correctly. My mindset back in Nigeria couldn't interpret the signals they kept throwing up, because people are always revealing themselves to us every day with their attitudes and their behaviors. But if you don't have the right lens, the right experience, or the right mindset, you will not interpret the signs correctly. And so the wilderness, the pain which we go through, opens our eyes to see the things we would never have seen otherwise. And in the story of the Exodus of the children of Israel, it is symbolized by the cutting away of the foreskin. Joshua chapter 5 verses 2 to 3 says, "At that time the Lord said to Joshua, make flint knives and circumcise the Israelites again. So Joshua made flint knives and circumcised the Israelites at Gibeath Haraloth. After the whole nation had been circumcised, they remained where they were in camp until they were healed. Then the Lord said to Joshua, today I have rolled away the reproach of Egypt from you." This happened just before Israel stepped fully into the promised land. So certain things could not follow them there. And practically in our lives today, one of those things is people, fake friends, damaging dynamics and relationships, green snakes in green grasses, what again my people call àwọn kòkòrò tí ń jẹ̀fọ́ tó wà lára ẹ̀fọ́. People who simply cannot follow you to where God is taking you. Their bitterness and their envy and their insecurities and their narcissism, which they have carefully disguised and concealed, will make them stab you in the back the moment your glory and your promotion start to show. So life takes us through a season where even though we regret the actions that we took on the surface, life is also working out things in our favor below the surface where it really counts. And the enemies and the pretenders in our lives will either reveal themselves in that season of pain, or the pain causes us to develop the wise lens or the wise lenses and the mindset to see them for who they really are, who they've been. So the point here is that even though you're blaming yourself now and saying that if only I had known then what I know now, I wouldn't have done that. The truth is that as long as you've gained from the experience that you went through, you are a winner. And at the most basic level of your winning, you are a winner because you now know that you probably should not have done that which you did, which is the reason why you had to do it in the first place. As long as you can point to something that you've learned that you might not have learned otherwise, you are now living in the reality of experience is the best teacher. Every time you've heard experience is the best teacher, you are now living the reality. And as I've alluded, let nobody tell you that only fools learn through experience. That is not true. At the deepest and the most impactful and fundamental levels of our lives, you cannot learn from the experience of others or from the instructions of others. No way. You will have to go through stuff by yourself. The second reason why you should also not regret is if this is the first time that you're learning this lesson in life. In other words, ask yourself, has life tried to teach me this lesson before? Have I been here before and I'm just repeating the same mistakes because I refuse to learn? Because if this is a lesson that life has tried to teach you over and over and you have not learned it, then life will keep trying to teach it to you over and over again. Because for every lesson that we don't learn, we're going to spend time taking that same class again, metaphorically speaking. And that's why some of us seem stuck in the same season forever. And the biggest danger with that dynamic of going through the same loop is not that we run out of chances, but that we run out of time. It is not that life or God won't give us second, third, fourth, fifth chances, even 1,000,000 chances. So it's not a question of running out of chances, because some people believe that they have missed all their opportunities in life and they have run out of their chances because they have misused their chances. No, the problem is a matter of not having enough time left to take advantage of the opportunities. Our chances don't run out, but we run out of time. If it was that all of us lived to be 200 years old and over, we would all be wise eventually. We'd probably be wise by the time we're around 150 years old, give or take. Would have made enough mistakes and suffered enough to learn by that point. But most of us, if we live to 70, we've tried. If we get to 80 years old, wow, how lucky. If we make it to 90, what? How did you do that? So ask yourself, this lesson that I have now learned that makes me say that if I had known, I wouldn't have taken this step or made that decision. Is this the first time that I am learning this lesson? If this is the first time that you've been here, then you're golden. You have no problem. You're where you're supposed to be at this moment. And I will make bold to say that even though you're saying that you wouldn't have done what you did if you had known better, I'm saying you really didn't have a choice in the matter. You were always going to make that decision one way or the other. And you were always going to end up here. Anyway you cut it, you were always going to end up here. If it wasn't that decision, then it would have been another one. But you would have always found yourself here one way or another. For me, if it wasn't the move to America, it would have been something else. Because these videos that you're watching are part of the principal reasons why I was brought here. I've always had this wisdom, this knowledge, this insights that I'm sharing with you on a theoretical level. There are some videos that I will share with us on this platform that I wrote 15 years ago when I was in my early 30s. But back then, I didn't have the necessary credibility or the authority and the scars of experience to share them. I was anointed but not appointed yet in that season. So if you're like that, congratulations. If you can confirm that you're just learning this lesson for the first time, because you have just learned a lesson you needed to learn and now it's time to graduate to the next level. But what if your answer is no? This is not my first time. I have been here before and I just didn't learn my lessons. You know what? It is still okay. As long as you can humbly say, finally, I have learned my lesson. And that is why God says in Joel chapter 2 verse 25 that I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten, the cankerworm and the caterpillar and the palmer worm, my great army which I sent among you. In Joel's day, Israel's lost years, those lost years, they were not accidental. They were not mysterious. They were not attacks of the enemy. They were the consequences of disobedience. The agricultural disaster, the waves of locust that destroyed everything, was a direct result of Israel's refusal to learn the lessons God had been trying to teach them for years, for decades. And yet, when Israel finally humbled themselves and said, we have learned our lesson, God responded with one of the greatest promises in scripture. And the years that they had wasted through disobedience, the seasons they had lost through stubbornness, the opportunities that had disappeared because they kept repeating the same mistakes, God restored all of that to them. And God did not merely restore what was lost. He restored the time it should have taken to rebuild it. So the disaster came from disobedience, but the restoration came from mercy. So for my friend, my brother, my sister, even if you should have learned this lesson 5, 10 or 20 years ago, as long as you can finally say, I have learned it now, I have learned the lesson now, God can restore the time and the opportunities. Now finally, there are some of us who feel as even though we finally learned our lessons through the difficult seasons that we've been through, we're not getting a chance to apply what we've learned. It's as if life is still punishing us and we're asking the question, what is the point of learning what I've learned and going through what I've gone through if I will not have another opportunity to make something of myself and my life? Just give me another chance, God. I was wrong. I was entitled. I was delusional. I was arrogant. I was naive. Just give me one more chance and I will make this right. Some of us have been praying this for years and nothing seems to be happening. Well, there are two things that I can offer you if you feel like this describes where you are at the moment. First, it is that even though you feel like you might not actually have learned all the lessons that this season of life is trying to teach you. I have a friend who's been stuck for years. He's one of the smartest guys whom I know. He's a hard worker. He's very intelligent, but he keeps getting taken advantage of because he won't set boundaries with certain people in business. He's too kind. He's too empathic, and he will sometimes let people just get away with things. As far as I could see, if he could just be firmer with some people in business, his fortunes will change. Now, I'm not God, of course, but I believe so. So that's how I mean. In many cases, we've learned a lot of lessons, but we haven't learned all the lessons or the critical lessons that need learning. Life is an ongoing crucible, but there comes a critical point where you've learned enough of the essential lessons to move forward. And so if you're such a person who feels like you've learned and done all that you can and life is not giving you another opportunity, I want you to know that your time is coming. And when it comes, God is going to do for you in a very short time what should usually take a lot of years or a number of years. There's nothing religious in that. What I am telling you is ordinary wisdom of life, which says that every dog has its own day in the sun. Sooner or later, your fortunes will definitely turn around. Your time will come again. Again, in my place in Ajawa, where I come from in Nigeria, which is in the west of Nigeria, in the Ogbomosho area, we say, "Iṣẹ́ tó bá ṣe ọmọ fógún ọdún, ìyà tó bá jẹ ọmọ fọ́gbọ̀n oṣù, tí ó bá ti pọmọ, ó ní láti padà lẹ́yìn rẹ̀." And the quickest way to translate that into English is that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Of course, the African proverb is more nuanced, but the message is passed. If I wanted to go deeper in the proverb, it's that if your troubles don't kill you over an extended period of time, then they will have no choice but to leave you alone after a while. It's like how the Bible records that after Jesus had resisted all the temptations in the wilderness, Satan left him alone for a season. Sooner or later, your troubles will have no choice but to leave you, and you will get a chance again to apply every single lesson that you have learned through this difficult period of your life. The second thing is that for some of us, greater destiny requires longer training. The greater your destiny, the greater your purpose, the greater the service you're supposed to offer people, the longer your lessons will be, the longer your training will be. We are all sent to people. We are all called to serve. That is the general purpose all human beings have. We all share that. All of us are called to serve people, but not always on the same level or with the same level of impact or the same level of accountability. So, for example, the Bible says that not all of us should be teachers. In the teaching ministry, when you're teaching people the Bible, the Word of God, teaching people about life, about the universe, about all of that, the responsibility that is placed on you is higher, way higher. To whom much is given, much is required. So for some of us who seem to still be going through something, even though we think we've learned all the lessons we need to learn, it might be that our destiny, our purpose, our service to humanity is great. It's supposed to have great impact. So you're still in the fire, you're almost done, but you're not done yet. Please tarry. Your promise will not tarry when the season comes. So in conclusion, don't waste your wilderness. If you've gone through suffering and learned nothing, changed nothing about your mindset, then you have reason for regret. But if that experience transformed you or revealed truth or opened new paths, then it was necessary. It was not a mistake. There is nothing to regret. I used to know someone who would say that hindsight is an oppressor. It's a tyrant. You say things like, if I could go back, I would have done this and done that, or I wouldn't have done this, or I wouldn't have done that. That is not even remotely true. And you would not know that, but for the fact that you did those things and have now come to where you are right now. In fact, I make bold to tell you that even if somehow you could go back in time and you didn't have the benefit of what you learned through the experience of making that decision, that is, if your memory was wiped right now, and you went back in time and you didn't know you had made that decision before, I am willing to bet that you would make the same exact decision all over again. So the real tragedy isn't making the wrong move. The real tragedy is going through suffering and remaining unchanged, because this is the paradox of necessary mistakes and regrets. Because even though they are technically mistakes, they are mistakes that were necessary so that we could learn what needed to be learned. And this is why God's grace is endless. Your lessons have purposes. Nothing is wasted. So stop regretting and keep going. Thank you for watching this video. If it has been of any value to you whatsoever and you like to support what we do here, There are two links in the description below. You can click on either one of them to show your support. Thank you.